Welcome to T-Bone Speaks with Dr. Tarun Agarwal, where our goal is to change the way you practice dentistry by helping you achieve clinical, financial, and personal balance. Now, here's your host, T-Bone.
It's another week of the T-Bone Speaks podcast. I got to be honest with you, I'm a little tired today for no good reason. It's probably been one of the better weeks of my practice career. I don't want to say practice career. It's been a great week. But I think I'm still tired from Vegas. And in fact, what we're going to talk about today on this episode is we're going to kind of do a recap from Dentsply Sirona World 2021, the first in-person larger meeting I've been to in a solid 18 months. Probably many of you haven't gone to a meeting. Now, certainly we've been holding our programs at 3D Dentist for about a year now still. We took about 6 months off, and so we've had smaller groups, 15, 20, 30, 40 people, but nothing to the scale of what we saw in Vegas last week with 3, 4, 5,000 people, whatever the real number is. But to make life easy for me, I have Michelle. Michelle, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Michelle
refuses to be on camera. She has a face for radio.
It's true.
No, you're quite an attractive person. Some days, maybe.
If I brush my hair, I agree.
At best.
Yes.
At best. If you brush your hair, lose about 80 pounds.
The COVID hit, or the quarantine hit me.
I'm kidding. I'm giving you a hard time. I like giving you a hard time. All right, so what's on your mind, Michelle?
I'd love to talk about Vegas. It was a good time.
Yeah, that was your first time going to Vegas?
It was.
Yeah, I've been to Vegas. I've been going to Vegas nearly yearly since, probably 2000, 99 actually. First time I went to Vegas non-fun-wise is I went to LVI, Las Vegas Institute, in 1999, 2000, 2001. Great experience, learned a lot. And then started going to Vegas at least once or twice a year when I was doing the Townie meeting from 2003 through 2012 for 10 years. And then continued to go after that. And then, Dentsply Sirona World was, Sirona World at the time would be held in Vegas every other year or every few years. And then now it looks like they're going to hold it in Vegas every year. So
it's magical.
Well, Vegas is not my favorite place. I'm not a big fan of Vegas as I've gotten older. Again, I like to tell people I'm only 45. I've been telling people I'm 46, but then I realize I'm actually 45.
We don't need to prematurely age you.
No, we don't. But I don't love Vegas as itself. Number one, it's like Walmart on steroids.
Huh, you're right.
And then it's also some Saks Fifth Avenue.
Yes.
And then it is like a European rave party.
Did you see when we were leaving? There was just interesting group coming out of that little concert venue. There was just a very large variety of people.
Well, it is a cross section of the world.
Yes.
It is truly a melting pot. And I'm not into the rave stuff where people go out late at night, so I'm definitely not into that.
You actually fell asleep during Gwen Stefani.
I did. And then I'm not into the dressing up to go out to eat and all the fancy restaurants. I'm not into that. I'm certainly not into the Walmart crowd. So I don't know how to explain that. That should explain why I don't love Vegas. But that's the number one convention city in the United States, possibly in the world. And that is where the meetings are. So that's where I go. And unlike years past, we saw the sun this year.
We did.
And that's because our hotel was a solid 15 to 20 minute walk from the
It was refreshing.
Convention center. But I smelled plenty of marijuana on the way over.
Yes. I wasn't used to that.
I didn't.
Now, you spoke this year on the main stage. How was it compared to some of your previous years?
Yeah, I think the meeting overall was, I wrote down bittersweet is kind of how I looked at it. So this is my fourth time being on the main stage. Always a great honor. I would say this year is probably a bigger honor because they asked me versus me kind of pitching myself. So that was nice. It wasn't as exciting as 2019, the last time I did it. And that technically I wasn't on the main stage, but I was doing a live surgery So for those of you that don't know, in 2019, I did an all-on-X 6-implant full arch hybrid surgery live during the general session on Thursday morning. And I had a solid 2 to 2.5 hours to get it completed. And I can't remember the exact details, but we removed like 6-7 teeth on the guy, did a little bit of bone reduction, and placed 6 implants, and then did an immediate conversion. And that was exhilarating. That was a lot of pressure. That was also a lot of timing. We had to be at certain spots. So there were times where we were working. And then there's times where I got the work done and I'm just waiting for the next time they come to me. So that was truly probably a highlight of my career to this point, at least. And then this year was nice. I mean, it was nice in some ways and not so nice in other ways. Just as a full disclosure, because I'm always pretty honest. This is the first year I've ever had to have my presentation approved by the legal department. And there was a part of me that thought it was just me in the beginning.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was just you.
But it wasn't just me. Apparently, it was a lot of people or everybody. And I think some of that had to do with the fact that they were live streaming it and that they're doing some recorded versions of it. So I think there's some more issues they have to deal with. That's my assumption. So that was... So some positives of that was that I had to actually do my presentation in advance, which I'm so not used to doing. The negative in that is that some of the things I wanted to talk about or wanted to include, I wasn't able to include, probably because they were highly inappropriate.
Imagine that.
But I was overall pleased and proud of my presentation. Number one, I had 3 main points to my presentation. Hopefully, those that were listening understood those 3 points. Point number 1 was busyness is the enemy. Business is not the enemy of dentistry. Busyness is the enemy. Number 2 is that dentistry doesn't have a case acceptance problem. Dentistry has a diagnosis and communication problem, and how we use technology to improve our overall patient experience for diagnosis. And the third one was comma versus decimal mentality. And all of these 3 things, probably not the busyness is the enemy, I've talked about on the podcast. But what was very interesting is I was, number one, it's only a 15-minute talk. And for me to talk for 15 minutes isn't that big of a deal. But to be on message and on point and to really feel like you're delivering a powerful message is difficult in 15 minutes. I was more nervous about this speaking engagement than probably any other speaking engagement. There's some political reasons and internal reasons for that, but the other main reason is I knew my middle of my presentation and I knew how I wanted to end it. And I knew I wanted to talk about business versus busyness, but I didn't know how I wanted to get started. And I wasn't clear on my talking point and my story and getting started. And I was so nervous that I would bungle and not do well and kind of go all over the place. And if you don't get started well, you really kind of struggle to do things. Right. And what's weird is I didn't sleep that night before, that Wednesday night.
What time did you show up at the convention center that morning?
6:30 in the morning.
And what time did you have to be there?
8:30.
Yeah.
8:30 I needed to be there. I woke up at 3 in that morning. But I didn't sleep well. And it's not like I went to bed super early. I went to bed at like 11:30. That night I went out to eat with Justin Moody, Chris, and JP. And so, I just didn't sleep well because I wasn't comfortable. Even through my rehearsal and everything, I just wasn't comfortable. And I was getting ready that morning, and I was doing what most people do when they get ready. I was sitting on the toilet. And you don't get ready every morning by sitting on the toilet?
I mean, I do. I guess I just don't think about that.
Or make it known out loud.
Right.
Yeah, probably that.
I generally don't share that.
But I do.
Yes, you're correct.
And I have a tendency to spend 20, 30, 40 minutes there.
Right.
But anyway, I digress.
Yes.
But It didn't come to me till 6 o'clock that morning. And for some reason, I just said busyness is the enemy. And I had never said that before or thought about it that way. And it was just like that I was confident in my talk. Okay, I just needed to get that busyness is the enemy. And it rolled for me, and it made sense. And hopefully I got up there and delivered it well. It's always nervous being in front of that many people, especially having been 18 months or more since you really talked in front of any, probably for me, at least a couple of years since I've talked to any group of size. And there's always a pressure. There's always a pressure when you're talking to a group of your peers, to industry representatives, to people you don't know. There's always a pressure. So I felt this pressure, but it was great. And then I was done.
Right.
I literally spoke for 15 minutes, and then I was like, okay, what do I do? Then I was literally done. And I'm so used to being so busy at that meeting to speak, doing multiple breakout sessions, multiple different, like a sales track, an imaging track, maybe an implant track. I've just been so involved in the educational component of that meeting for so many years. And that's the part of it that was really bittersweet for me. It was coming to the realization that Dentsply Sirona is a different company than the Sirona I was used to in the early to mid 2000s, even the early 2010s, that it's a different company. And there's pluses and minuses to all of that. Coming to the realization that there's a new leadership team there, that I don't know everybody there. I don't have a solid relationship with everybody. It was, there are a few people there still, and it's always nice. And that there's more politics involved in things. And maybe I just didn't recognize the politics because I was deeper into the politics in the past. But also seeing that, maybe we're moving in different directions. And maybe, I'm growing differently, and my vision and goals of what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to take 3D dentists and myself, maybe that doesn't fit with what they're doing. And maybe it does. I don't know. There's a lot of internal strife for me there. But seeing that was bittersweet. The sweet part of it was seeing people. It was great. It was great seeing longtime friends. It was great connecting with people and talking to people. All of that part was great. I mean, the theme of their meeting was connect. And, they were pretty spot on with that. It was
absolutely.
It was a great opportunity to connect. But it was, I'm used to being busy, but busyness is the enemy.
Right.
But I'm used to being more involved educationally at the meeting. I thought the educational quality was definitely less than I anticipated. I shouldn't say less than I anticipated. I don't know how to explain it because I don't want to say anything negative. I really don't. The educational quality was not a speaker issue. I think ultimately it's a more basic level of education. It's an introductory level. I've talked about meetings before. Meetings are like Dentsply Sirona World. They're great 30,000 foot view meetings, where you get exposed to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 speakers. You can really learn maybe something basic and say, you know what, I want to go down this path. And then there's trainings, right? And then a lot of the speakers or a lot of the companies offer training where you can say, you know what, I resonate with this person. I want to go learn more from them, and I want to go down this implant path or whatever, XYZ path. So that part of it is there. It does its part. The entertainment was fantastic.
Did you stay awake for both shows?
I didn't go. I only went to Gwen Stefani for a couple of songs. I didn't do anything else. I mean, I've never been. I've been to the one entertainment I've been to over the years is I went to see Tony Robbins. Okay. I really enjoyed that. I really, really enjoyed that. But it's hard. He's cultish in a sense, right? Okay. So it's easy to get caught up.
And you've been busier in the past years.
Yeah, but even then, so I went to Katy Perry.
Okay.
Because
Are you a big Katy Perry fan?
No, but my daughter wanted me to FaceTime her from there, so she
didn't want that with Gwen Stefani. Does she know who Gwen
I don't
Stefani
think
is?
she knows who Gwen Stefani is. And then, yeah, so I've really never been to the entertainment. And so I didn't, I kind of kept with that this year. I'm not a big entertainment kind of person.
Well, John Maloney did a great job. He researched as much as he could about dentistry, so he kept trying to make dental jokes the entire time.
But that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
I went to Seinfeld
a
few years back, and so that part was great to connect with people and seeing people, and yeah.
So in past years, when you've been busier with some of the education portion, would you be in the booth less those years?
Yeah, I would still, my home base has always been the booth. That's kind of where I go to, and I try. And what happens is when you speak more, you end up getting more people to come talk to you at the booth.
Even though this year people were so excited to come see you.
Yeah, no, there was that, but there was more lulls.
A little, yeah.
And I didn't experience that in the past because I've always been speaking or taking classes.
Right.
So I never was there during the lull time. So when there's classes going on, there should be, in theory, there should be a lull there, right? So I wasn't used to being a part of the lull part. So, but I was so shocked that I didn't go take a nap. And
I'm proud of you.
Well, I think the fact that it was a 20-minute walk back to the hotel.
I think you did nap on one of the benches at one point.
Possibly. But, the fact that it was a 20-minute nap, walk would keep me from going there. But it was wonderful running. I ran into a couple of dental school classmates, which was nice. I talked to a lot of people that take our programs or will take our programs. I was shocked at how many people mentioned that they listened to the podcast. I thought we only had 3 listeners.
Surprise.
But since we put Michelle on, we will definitely now have, since we're gonna mention your OnlyFans account.
I do selfie pics. I'm just kidding. I don't. I try.
That was great. And I think hearing from people is so important for the podcast. Even if it's negative feedback, because that tells me people are listening. And the last thing you want to do is do all of this if you're not listening. I did get a lot of compliments about my main stage talk. That's always...
A lot of people loved the comma over decimals mentality.
Yeah, that was my least important part of what I wanted to talk about.
But I think that hit home for most people.
It's interesting how that works. Like, I thought the busyness is the enemy was the most important thing.
And that was your closing remark, too.
Yeah.
So the fact that you kept them engaged the entire time.
Yeah. So, it was great running into dental school classmates, great running into students from 3D dentists. It's great running into longtime friends.
Absolutely.
It's great also seeing how dentistry is incestuous. And what I mean by that is people that I work with at Sirona are now at other companies. Or people I've worked with at XYZ company are now with other companies. People don't really leave dentistry. And for those of you that are budding speakers or future speakers, don't burn bridges. Always be kind and thoughtful, be honest, and realize that people move around. So that was great. I had some odd conversations. I had this one guy come up to me and ask me some really random questions.
Oh, like what?
Like rapid. I don't know. I can't. I try to forget that one. But like rapid fire.
Probably came at you so fast. You're like, I'm sorry, what?
Like rapid fire philosophical questions.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that really. It was odd. It was a little bit odd, but it was kind of interesting.
It made you think for a second.
It did. It did. But there were some common questions I got.
Like what?
I made some notes because although I didn't know what we were talking about today, but I made some notes once you told me. Some common questions. People had a lot of questions around employees. I think people are really struggling with team members, finding team members, dealing with team members, having some fear around letting people go because it's just hard to find human beings. Like human beings don't exist apparently right now.
They don't.
I did hear a few people talk about a fear for the future. And by that, they're like, oh my God, it's been so good for a year, or 12 months, 14 months, 15 months.
When's the other shoe going to drop?
Yeah, they have some fear about that. And, so there was some fear there. And a lot of questions. Dentsply Sirona, for the most part, the meeting is really about technology. A lot of questions around implementing technology. The question that stood out to me the most was actually at the airport on the way home on Saturday night. For those, listen, number one, I love it when people come talk to me. Like, I really do.
He does.
But when people are wearing masks, I have no earthly idea who they are. Okay, it's hard to know. And then, frankly speaking, all non-Indian people look alike to me. So if you come to talk to me, if you could just kind of remind me of your name and where you're from, because otherwise I'm like, should I know this person? Is this person my neighbor? Because we're on our flight back to Raleigh, and I'm sitting in the waiting room in the airport area, and I'm like, oh my God, is this person flying on my flight? Do they live near us? And it turned out he was from Maine, but it would have been nice to know.
Have some context.
Yeah, some context of what's going on. So, but anyway, he said, hey, listen, I just spent $200,000, and how do I implement all this?
Oh, wow.
And so it's a common question, right? And it's easy to spend more than $200,000 because if you buy a full CAD CAM system and then a cone beam, and a few other minor things, I mean, you're easily well over $200,000. And I think I would like to do an episode on that, on talking about how do you implement that technology, because when I started, it was easy. Sarek did crowns.
Right.
Okay. When I started with cone beam, it did implants, and now there's so much more to it. It's like drinking through a fire hose,
and a little bit of sticker shock to go along with it.
Yeah. So listen, if you don't have some buyer's remorse, that's abnormal. You should have buyer's remorse. But listen, you made that decision. Number one, if you made the decision while you're drinking or something like that, that's one thing. But you made the decision because you got inspired, you saw something, you wanted something. So see it out. Use it, right? But the key is you got to use it. Right. And obviously, if we can help you at 3D dentist, that's great. But the politics of Dentsply Sirona stuff doesn't make that easy. But yeah, so it was great, and I that was the question that stood out to me because, and it's not like I haven't dealt with that question before, but for some reason, it hit more with me this time. Around, hey, I just spent I kind of saw I don't want to use the word fear, but
it's a little bit deer in a headlight look.
Yeah, that look. You were there.
And he was a little bit younger too. Yeah. I think he was a little bit.
And we're seeing it younger, right?
Right.
Or maybe I'm just older and.
No, but it is getting younger. But I think when he kind of ran up to you too, like not desperate, but it was kind of like, I just did this thing. Like, can you help me?
Yeah, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. No. I'm talking about buying the technology. Right. I would, but
also bugging you too.
Yeah, no, but. If you don't bug somebody, how are you going to get somewhere? Right. I'm sure I bug people too. I may not remember it, but I'm sure I bug people, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without technology.
Absolutely.
Practice speaking, professionally within the industry speaking, and to a certain degree personally speaking, I wouldn't be there. So last thing before we kind of wrap this up is. Who would I recommend to go to Dentsply Sirona World? I said, number one, if you're looking at any Dentsply Sirona technology, you should take advantage of it. They'll make it, the meeting no cost for you to be a prospect. They force you to go to some certain classes to earn that. But it's a great opportunity to see things, to be entertained. They make it a great buying environment.
They even ring the bell for you when you buy something.
Yeah, they even ring the bell when you do buy something. If you're looking to see a broad range of different techniques, biased as they are towards the Dentsply Sirona workflow, it's a great meeting. So if you're looking for something 30,000 foot, I think it's a great meeting. I think if you're looking for a deep dive into any particular topic, I think it's probably not. If you're looking for a truly educational meeting where you're going to walk away learning how to dive deeper, I don't think that. I think you're barking up the wrong tree there. But you definitely leave learning because you're going to get introduced to things that you may not be doing. So from that perspective, it's fantastic. And without doubt, all the people I've talked to that have been there once or twice or never, they love the meeting.
When they come back. I remember asking a few people, like, oh, is this your first time? And they said, oh, no, I've been here 3-4 years. Yeah. And
so
I was
obviously something's going right.
Right. And I think it's the camaraderie a little bit too, being able to, which is why we have the 3D retreat now. We wanted to encompass that same atmosphere of being able to be around like-minded individuals, have that conversation. And so it was neat to see people just excited about dentistry again.
Yeah. And I will say that is the one thing that is so different about that meeting than the ADA, Chicago Midwinter, is there is a sense of community, even if you're not in the community. There is a sense of energy and excitement, and you're really around people that are there because they love it. At the end of the day, I mean, they love it. You know, it's not like, hey, I got to go to the ADA, get my annual conference, get my hours. You know, it's just people are generally speaking, 90% of people there because they love it. And I think that's awesome to be around. So a great meeting. You know, who knows?
You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. I was nervous and
you couldn't tell from the audience perspective. It was a really good speech.
Well, thank you very much. It's interesting. I'm going to be doing that for a sprint ray event next month. So that's exciting as well. So
that is very exciting.
Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in for this week's episode. I wanted to get that off my chest. I mean, I've been wanting to talk about, actually, I came down here to the studio yesterday to record it by myself, and there was no microphones here because they were all in Vegas, but, or they all had gone to Vegas and they didn't make their way back here. But if we can help you, if you're looking to expand your practice, if you're frustrated, you feel overwhelmed, and, you know, you when I say busyness is the enemy, if that hits home with you because you're so busy that it's keeping you from achieving your potential, give us a buzz at 3D Dentist. We really can help you with that, whether it's through our boot camp, which is about slowing down through case acceptance and patient journey, whether that's through the mastermind, which I believe is full for January, but we're going to add another program for a little bit later in the year. So it's good times right now. So, and then I think everybody should come see the retreat. It's fantastic. So thank you guys very much, and we will see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening to T-Bone Speaks with Dr. Tarun Agarwal. Remember to keep striving for excellence, and we'll catch you on the next episode.